All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to give it a second to hopefully we can get more than 5 people in here. We'll see what happens. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I apologize. My ring light's broken. So if my lighting's a little off, though, it looks okay right now. Yeah, so what we're going to do here before I get started, just so everybody is aware of how this is kind of going to go, because it's not, it's not our typical like wonder goal type thing, right? Because when we did Wonder Goal, we typically just bypassed these type of international breaks, just passed on the World Cup qualifiers and all that stuff. But since now it's my show, I thought like, why not? Why not do a little live stream here for some World Cup qualifiers and of course AFCON qualifiers, which are AFCON is very near and dear to my heart. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to go through South America, Asia, and then AFCON qualifiers. One thing that I was just about to mention this. So two things I'm not going to do today. Well, I am going to do it, but both UEFA and CONCACAF Nations Leagues. It is my personal opinion that these competitions don't matter and the players do not take them seriously. So I typically do not include them, like the results from them, in my projections. And I typically don't project out matches for the Nations League, by both CONCACAF or UEFA. But I am a man of the people, and I understand that people want action, right? So here's what I'm going to do. At the end of this, after we're done going through everything, I will open it up to everybody. If you want to know a projection on a certain match, I can plug it into my sheet, and I can give you a projection. But you got to go and look through the lineups. You got to look through all the injuries, and you got to make the decision for yourself if you actually want to bet it. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. I understand people want action, so I'm not gonna just sit here and hinder people. So I'll give you the information that you need. But in any case, so that's what we're gonna do. So let's see, we got about 10 people in here, 11 people in here right now. We'll see if we can get more than that. So yeah, here's what's kind of on the horizon a little bit. So I'll obviously be doing this live stream here. And then next Wednesday, I'll go through and do the normal, like I did, normal weekend preview for Premier League and all the other leagues and everything like that. And then I'm trying to still figure out a time for when to do Champions League and Europa League, debating between Sunday night or Monday night. Watching live on the TV. Let's go. All right. So yeah, we got about 15 people. I'll give it a little. Does anybody have any questions before we get started? Let's start with that. Maybe give people a little bit more time to come in here. Anybody got any questions before we get started? It's an interesting international break. It is. We have just for those, obviously we had Togo today and they lost. That sucked. I went back and looked. They haven't posted what the final XG was for either that, but I went and looked. Togo had 13 shots in the penalty area to Liberia's 4, counting their penalty. So, I'm assuming when we get back the final XG, it'll say that Togo pretty much dominated the match, which they did. So it is what it is. You're right. Nations League isn't more important for the smaller nations. That's fair. But in my opinion, it's just not a real competition, and a lot of players just don't care about it. Like, have you seen England's quote unquote injury list going into this? Like, it's so freaking long, and it's really only because these players do not want to risk playing in a competition that they just do not care about. So yeah, I mean, I get it. UEFA's got to make money somehow, right? All right, we got about 13 people. All right, let's get started. We're going to start in South America. I have 4 picks for the first 4 matches. There are, 5 matches in total. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention. We'll see how this goes. We'll see how many people we get to watch this, but I will probably end up passing on the second round as we come back, just because of the timing. It would have to be Sunday night. So unless there's like a huge clamoring from the people for me to do it, I probably won't, because it's probably not going to be worth it for a couple reasons. Number one, AFCON's pretty much everything's pretty much all wrapped up right now. So there's like really no how much do teams care if they have already advanced? Well, we'll you know what, I'll talk about. There's a couple matches that I will talk about. I don't know if I'll get to that when we get to AFCON. All right. It kind of goes in line with two of my picks, actually. So let's start in South America. Let's start with the very first match, Venezuela, Brazil. Let me pull up the odds here really quick for you. Again, all of the odds that I'm just going to do are from Bet365. They're not paying for any of this, but it's just the easiest book, in my opinion, in terms of betting soccer and odds and everything like that, especially for Asian lines. All right, so Venezuela's 5-1. Brazil's -182. The draw is at +310. The total is sitting at about 2.25 in that range, over 2.5. Actually, over 2.5 is about +105. And the unders juiced about -135 in that range. So I like Venezuela +1 quite a bit here, which is about -117 on Bet365. I think that's probably the best you can find. Typically BetRivers and Bet365, and then DraftKings are the ones that are going to give you Asian lines to begin with, and Bet365 is generally going to give you the best odds. So I haven't looked at BetRivers. Last time I saw Venezuela was like -135 for +1. So, but here's the deal. So I think we all know now that Brazil has gone through a lot of difficulties during qualifying. I mean, we were at a point before these last two qualifiers that there was like they were on the edge of like actually not qualifying or having to play a playoff even to get into the World Cup, which would be just catastrophic for them. But they won 2 straight matches. They beat Peru and Chile. But so I guess the question is, like, are they back because they won 2 matches? I don't really think so. So they scored 6 goals in those 2 matches, but that came off of 3.8 expected. And they had 2 penalties against Peru, and then to begin the match. And then after that, it completely opened up. Venezuela +1, -125 at DK. Yeah, you can get -117 at Bet365. So what Brazil's problem is I think it's a fair statement to say that Brazil has the most individual quality of any team in the world. I think that's fair to say. But when it comes down to breaking down solid, low defensive blocks, they seem to kind of run out of ideas. And the reason for that is I think, twofold. Because they have the individual quality, they tend to settle for a lot of shots from outside the box because I think they can obviously make them. And number 2, they're playing without a true striker right now. They were playing Rodrigo as a false 9 for a little bit. But when you play teams that are going to play like really, really low, compact defensive blocks, and they're not going to let you get any space through the middle through that zone 14, right in front of the 18-yard box, it becomes really difficult if you're a team if they're just going to force you to send crosses and out wide, right? If you don't have an aerial threat in the middle of the box. So Brazil has kind of struggled away from home in that aspect. So here are their last 5 away matches in South American qualifying. Away to Peru, 0.9 expected goals off of 9 shots. Away to Uruguay, 0.17 expected goals off of 2 shots. Away to Colombia, 0.6 expected goals off of 12 shots. Away to Paraguay, 0.87 expected goals off of 9 shots. And then away to Chile, 1.26 expected goals off of 14 shots. By my calculations, that is next cheaper shot of 0.08, which is horribly inefficient. And even in their last 2 matches, they started this kid, Igor Jesus, a 23-year-old who plays for Botafogo up top, which is really surprising, right? Because you see all of the individual quality that Brazil has in terms of their attack. And they're starting some 23-year-old kid who 4 years prior to this year had been playing in the United Arab Emirates. Like, what's going on, right? It's because he's a big aerial threat they can throw balls into, right? And Brazil, they just don't have that right now. Venezuela is a very undervalued team in South America. You saw that during Copa America. They got to the quarterfinals, and they have been really, really good at home in qualifying, especially recently. They've had a couple bad matches away from home. I bet on them when they went to Bolivia. They got swallowed up by the altitude. Will not be testing the altitude ever again in Bolivia. It's burned me like 5 straight times now. They allowed Paraguay to come back and beat them in their most recent one. But their previous 2 home matches against Uruguay and against Argentina, they drew both of them, which, Argentina is probably the best team in South America. Uruguay is probably 4th right now. Outcreated them on expected goals 3.5 to 1.6. They're a very, very good defensive team. Even when they played Brazil in Brazil earlier in qualifying, it was a 1-1 draw. Brazil's best chance came off a set piece, and expected goals in the end was 1.2 to 0.8. So I only have Brazil projected at minus 123, and I'll be honest, like my projections actually favor Brazil quite a bit because they've been really, really good defensively up until this like recent like bad stretch. So that tells me that there's a lot of value here on Venezuela, and I think that they are honestly ripe for an upset. If you want to take Venezuela 5-1, I think that there's definitely value on that. If you want to pick them off the upset, but if you want a little bit lower risk, Venezuela +1 at minus 117 at Bet365, I think has a lot of value. Yeah, they should have won against Uruguay. Very hard place to go play, Venezuela. A lot of places in South America are very difficult to go play, and home field advantage in South America is just like it's weighted a lot more heavily than other continents. Let's just say that, and obviously the atmospheres are just so beautiful to see every single time. All right, let's move on. Next up, Paraguay and Argentina. Honestly, I think this price is pretty short on Argentina. As I'm talking here, let me just make sure I can get everybody the best odds. But so here is the deal with Paraguay. They've had a couple good results recently. They obviously beat Brazil at home, so I think a lot of people will point to that and say, "Oh, okay, well they might be ripe for an upset here against Argentina." Argentina has been cruising here throughout qualifying. They have tripped up a little bit on the road recently, like I said, against Venezuela, and then obviously against Colombia, they lost 2-1. Although if you go watch the match against Colombia scored off a set piece, which they are so good at doing, and we had a penalty in that match. So really only 0.7 expected goals created from open play for Colombia at home. Best price you can find right now in Argentina is minus 140, and that is at DraftKings. Okay, so I have Argentina projected at minus 244. So I think the price is honestly pretty short here. And the reason for that is because Paraguay is, although they have some talent, Enciso, Almiron, Ramon Sosa, who plays for Nottingham Forest, their offense is quite frankly kind of pathetic when they have to play elite competition. From the start of World Cup qualifying last fall, they're only averaging 0.83 expected goals per 90 minutes. And the thing is that they're not struggling to generate shots because they're averaging over 12 shots per 90. Actually, they're averaging more shots than both Brazil and Argentina. But their shots they're taking are mainly outside the box, and they're incredibly low quality chances because their average shot distance is over 20 yards. Their XG per shot is 0.08, which is obviously incredibly low, just like we mentioned with Brazil. And the last time they faced Argentina, they did absolutely nothing. 0.12 expected goals on 4 shots in total for the match. And it's not like it was a 0-0 match for the entire thing. Argentina scored in the 3rd minute, and they shut the entire thing down and allowed Paraguay to do absolutely nothing. So that just speaks to how bad their offense actually is if they can't even generate anything, playing from behind essentially the entire match. Again, like I mentioned, Argentina has conceded over 1.5 expected goals in their last 2 away matches. If you get a chance tonight, go pull up the Argentina-Venezuela highlights. It's hilarious. The pitch they were playing on was completely waterlogged. Like it was like maybe one of the worst things I've ever seen. It was horrible. So yeah, like it was just a weird situation. And again, that's just going away in South America. It's tough, But here's what I will say is Argentina's defense is obviously very, very good. Lisandro Martinez has pulled out here, but Argentina's got plenty of quality on their back line. They'll just slot in Otamendi alongside Romero, and they'll be perfectly fine. So not a huge loss. But Argentina is only allowing 0.71 expected goals per 90 minutes since the beginning of World Cup qualifying. They are so good defensively. And it's because they just know how to shut down matches. Like they are so good at being able to have slow, controlled buildup, open teams up, play through them. Like they do a really good job you'll see Rodrigo De Paul and Alexis McAllister oftentimes will start in the half space and they'll gradually get wider and wider to open up a pass for whether it be Lautaro Martinez or Messi to get balls in there through the middle, and they will take those chances and they will make those direct passes. Although they are a little bit conservative, they will do that. So I think they have a good shot at doing that here against Paraguay. Paraguay, since the beginning of qualifying, minus 5.1 expected goal differential. They've only scored 4 goals in 10 matches. So here's the deal. Like, I think Argentina is really live here. Unless they get caught on the wrong side of variance, I don't really see why they should be closing south of minus 200. I mean, the previous match in Argentina, they were minus 450. They closed as a minus 450 favorites. So even if you flip that for home field, you would still have them above minus 200 favorites. So yeah, I like Argentina here. Minus 140 at DraftKings is the best price that you can find right now. So yeah, I like Argentina. Messi will be in the lineup after Inter Miami got knocked out in the MLS playoffs. All right, let's move on to the next match is Ecuador versus Brazil. Sorry, I should have read off the odds for Argentina, but I'll read off the odds here for Ecuador and Bolivia. Ecuador is minus 600. Bolivia is 18-1, and the draw is 6-1. Congratulations to Bolivia. I think it's their first. They beat Chile in the last round. It was their not the last round, 2 rounds ago. My bad. In September, it was their first win outside of Bolivia. I think 20 matches. I want to say somewhere in that range. But I think the total's high here. Total set at 3. Now, obviously, it's Bolivia, right? So they're the worst defensive team. You saw that during Copa America. And, of course, there is the possibility that Ecuador could just put 4 or 5 past them. But here's what I want to say. Ecuador matches tend to be very, very low events. Total is sitting at 3 even money at Bet365. That's the best price you can find right now. Argentina to win nil, plus 137. That's decent. I won't lie to you. That's decent. I'd have to go and look and see what the actual projection on it is. But yeah, there's definitely some value if you want to chase a bigger price. Argentina to win nil, definitely, without a doubt. Ecuador matches tend to be very low event. Overall, in World Cup qualifying so far, Ecuador matches are averaging 1.82 expected goals per 90 minutes. That's not their offense. That's in total. 1.82. That's incredibly low event. And the reason for that is just because of their style of play. They're a very, very difficult team to play through. They do a man marking system all over the pitch, and they obviously have outstanding ball winners everywhere. Caicedo, Nkape, William Pacho. They're really, really difficult to play through the middle. They're really good at winning those 1v1 duels. So against a team like Bolivia, that's obviously going to try to play very direct against them. That's going to thwart any opportunities that they have of actually hitting them in transition. Now, the problem for Ecuador has been their attack, because far too often they're just settling for shots from outside the box. They obviously have an incredible young star in Kendry Paez, who's obviously going to go into Chelsea. I don't know when, but eventually. He is really good at connecting their defense to their attack and progressing the ball through the second and third phases. And getting the ball into their forwards. But the problem is the forwards just can't create anything. I love Enter Valencia just as much as everybody else, but he's 35 now, playing for Internacional in the Brazilian Serie A. He scored twice and hasn't even accumulated 890s. Like, he's past his prime, is what I'm trying to say. And they're also under a new manager who is prioritizing more control of matches rather than playing more direct. And it's been pretty evident their last, their matches against Paraguay and Peru, they've been averaging over 70% possession. But it's still not translating to the creation of high quality chances, which is, the whole point of this game, right? Like, we want to be able to create high quality chances from that type of control. So Bolivia is going to sit in a very compact, low defensive block, and they're going to dare Ecuador to break them down and just beat them with shots from outside the box. No shots might go in. Like, it is when you just, you tip your cap and you say it is what it is. But the previous match between these two, Ecuador won it 2-1. There was only 1.9 expected goals created in the match. So I think a total of 3 is high here, projected 2.55 goals. So under 3, even money is good enough for me in Ecuador and Bolivia. And again, best prices at Bet365. All right, let's move on to Uruguay and Colombia. Uh, Uruguay is sitting at plus 120. Colombia is plus 250. The draw is at plus 220. Hang on, I'm just checking what. Yep, it's still there. Good. Colombia plus a half, minus 148 at Bet365. I love that price. Uruguay, since they beat the United States in Kansas City in Copa America, they have not won a match in 90 minutes. That's 6 straight matches under Bielsa where they have failed to win, and the story is their offense. I love Bielsa just like everybody else. His 4-2-2-2 mid block, trying to turn opponents over, create easy transition opportunities, or force opponents into playing a lot of direct balls and being able to win those 1v1 duels has been very successful, and it's a very difficult thing to play against. But what happens is when you aren't given the opportunities to play in transition, what happens if a team just forces you to build out of the back and can defend your direct balls with a lot of success? And that's exactly what's going to happen here against Colombia. And if you remember, these two met in the Copa America semifinals, and Colombia won 1-0. And they were playing down a man for the entire second half. And Colombia was only able to muster 0.8 expected goals. You know, if you remember the match, Darwin had a couple good chances early on, and then those chances just dried up because Colombia just sat compact, and Uruguay had no really route of breaking them down. Uruguay has not scored for 4 straight World Cup qualifying matches, and they have only created 3.3 expected goals in those 4 matches. I mean, since the win against the United States, like I said, 6 matches, they've scored 2 goals. Those 2 came against Canada in the third place match in Copa America. Colombia, on the other hand, has been incredible. I think you can make the argument that they're the second best team in South America right now. They are missing Lerma. That's true. That is a tad scary, but in any case, over their last 13 matches, Colombia has a plus 11.7 expected goal differential, and they have won the XG battle in all 13 of those matches. They are so good. A lot of that has to do with how good they are as a high-pressing team. You know, they are probably one of the more aggressive teams and being out of possession in South America. A lot of teams will play low blocks. Colombia doesn't do that. They like to play man mark. They like to get in your face and like to make life difficult on you. And what they like to do is force you into a lot of direct balls over the top. And the reason for that is because they are incredibly good at winning those 1v1 duels, and they are incredibly good at defending those long balls. They have the lowest long ball completion percentage allowed in South American qualifying. They're very, very good at winning those. Luis Diaz and Duran, I mean, that's a really good combo up top. A team, you know, especially when you play against Uruguay, a team that's going to man mark and a team that's going to get you into a lot of 1v1s. I mean, Diaz and Duran can beat anybody in 1v1s, at least in this type of match. So for me, I think this match should be projected closer to a pick'em, given the form that Colombia is in and the bad form that Uruguay is in right now. So Colombia plus a half, minus 148 at Bet365. Draw no bet. You can play draw no bet if you want to. What is draw no bet right now? So here, I'll just give you my projection for the match. I have Uruguay at plus 151, Colombia at plus 219, total at 2.23. So draw no bet. What's up, Peter? How you doing? Draw no bet is plus 140-ish in that range. You can play that if you want to. I prefer taking plus a half because I think there's a real shot that this is going to be ending potentially 0-0. So I'm going to play a 0-0. Although, here's one point I want to make before we get out of here for South America. We move on to Asia. The books have taken all the fun out of the totals. You know, typically, like before Copa America, and even during Copa America for that matter, if people remember, a lot of unders were being priced just way too high in terms of the actual odds. And now, over the last 2 rounds of it, you're getting a lot of under 2.5, so like minus 200, minus 250. somewhere in that range, which is just they've taken all the fun out of it because these matches typically are very low event because South America is just different than Europe. They like to rely a lot more on individual quality, which in turn leads to a lot more chances of trying to hit things from outside the box or typically trying to there's not really like devolve of tactics really, like there's no like set tactics like you typically see in Europe, so it's just different. A lot more like like to call rock fights, and the books have just taken all the fun out of it. So like even both teams score no in a lot of these matches is like -175, which I don't really want to play. So, but you know what? We'll get to a point which when we get to AFCON, we're gonna have some fun taking some overs. But we'll get to a point here with South America where they will juice these unders so hard that we'll eventually play some overs. So right now we're just in the point where they've kind of gone a little too drastic on it and just kind of taking the fun out of it. Worth parlaying or round robining every under 2 Asian line for these South American matches? No. Simple answer, no. Where I have things projected, no. Let's move. All right. Any more questions from South America? I don't have anything. What's the final? I think it's Peru and Chile. I don't have anything for that match. I will say if you want to, let's see. What is the 0-0? See, here's the thing. The 0-0 is plus 550 in Peru and Chile, which this match did end 0-0 in Copa America a little bit ago. Yeah, I mean, what's both teams to score? I mean, both teams to score no is -175. Like, if I could get both teams to score no at -150-ish, if I could find that somewhere, I would probably play that. But -175 is a little high for me. But I will say that if you're going to play 0-0 in any match, I think that's the one to do it. I projected 1.71 goals for that match. Uruguay, Colombia, both teams score no, -140 on DraftKings. Let me just mention this about Uruguay and Colombia before we move on. We've had both ends of the spectrum with them. You know, we obviously remember the Copa America match that, ended 1-0 and there was, 2 expected goals total. They played a match, I think it was like second or third match in qualifying. There was like 4 expected goals and it was just complete chaos. So both teams to score no is a little scary with Bielsa, I'll be honest, even if Uruguay's matches have been a little bit low event. So I'd rather just pass and just take Colombia, take their form. All right. Should we move on to Asia? Let's move on to Asia. I have 2 picks in Asia. Again, if you have any questions for any of the Asian qualifiers, just pop them in the chat and we can go through them. But I'm just going to go through the 2 matches that I have something on. And the first one is Qatar and Uzbekistan. I like Uzbekistan here. Let me pull up the odds here really quick before we move on. All right. This match is 11:15 a.m. Eastern time on Thursday. Qatar is +180. Uzbekistan is +162. The draw is at 2-1. I like Uzbekistan. Draw no bet at -120. Again, best price is at Bet365. Project them as a +110 favorite here. Even though Qatar won the Asian Cup, they have not been very good when they have to face good competition. And Uzbekistan is a team that I put in that category of being difficult competition in terms of Asia. So Qatar typically is a team, under their new manager that likes to press high in a man-to-man fashion. And they will typically play a very high line. So when they play all these lower level teams, they will force a lot of high turnovers. They will create a lot of easy transition opportunities, and they will overwhelm them, and they will put up big numbers, right? I think they had a huge match against Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken, that they put up. Let me look that up before we get to go on, because it's going to bother me if I don't do it. I'm pretty sure they might have scored 8 goals against Afghanistan, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look that up before we go, because it's really going to bother me. Yes, they did. They put up 8 goals against Afghanistan November 16th of last year. Yeah, there you go. But in any case, Uzbekistan is a team that's not really going to matter to them because they're just going to play. They're your traditional 5-3-2. They're going to play low block and they're going to counterattack and they're going to play very, very direct. And they are very physical and very good at winning 1v1 duels when, they go against teams like Qatar that try to play man-to-man. And quite frankly, Qatar just isn't that good in terms of physicality when they had to face teams like this. These two met in the semifinals of the Asian Cup, which was in Qatar. So same scenario here. Uzbekistan closed as a slight underdog in that match. They were at plus 210. Qatar was around plus 160-ish, and they dominated them. They completely dominated Qatar. The only goal that Qatar scored was a mishandled cross by the keeper that found the back of the net. For the match, Qatar generated 9 shots. We played 120 minutes here. We played extra time. 0.39 expected goals. That is because, like I said, 5-3-2 low block. Uzbekistan is so freaking difficult to play through. They're only allowing 0.82 expected goals per 90 minutes since the beginning of 2024. And their last 15 matches, they have a plus 13.7 expected goal differential. They are really, really good. Qatar tends, like I said, they tend to beat up on a lot of lower level competition. They've played over the last calendar year. They obviously had this match against Uzbekistan. They've played Iran twice. And in those 2 matches against Iran outcreated them 4.6 to 2.8 on expected goals. And I have a stat for you as well to round this whole thing out. 2 stats, actually. Uzbekistan has not lost a match in 90 minutes in either World Cup qualifying or the Asian Cup since June 15th of 2021 when they lost 3-0 to Saudi Arabia. During that time frame, they have played Iran 3 times, and they have won the expected goals battle in 2 of those 3 meetings. They are the better team than Qatar. And the books have only just kind of slightly flipped things. And I don't think they've gone far enough. Uzbekistan is clearly the better team. I love them draw no bet here at, like I said, minus 120. I think they are a perfect team if you want to build some type of round robin. Their money line sitting at plus 162 is a perfect thing to throw in a round robin. And maybe at the end of this, we can build a round robin together throughout all these qualifiers. That sounds like a lot of fun. All right. Let's move on to, so again, only 2 picks here throughout Asian qualifying. There was one Kuwait plus 2 against, are they plus 2 against South Korea? Is kind of interesting to me, although Kuwait has had some bad results. Long ways to travel for South Korea to Kuwait. Should we pull up a map and should we see how far that actually is? South Korea to Kuwait flight. Can you give me the time here, or miles? Actually, to Kuwait, how many miles is that? Yeah, 4,500 miles from South Korea to Kuwait. That's a long ways to travel. So I was looking at Kuwait potentially. South Korea's minus 500. Kuwait is sitting at 12-1. I would like plus 2. The problem is, plus 2 is sitting at minus 129. Hang on. I was looking at Kuwait earlier. Let me just go pull up their things. And then I have a lot of notes for Japan and Indonesia. But I want to look up this Kuwait thing first because something was bugging me about it. Yeah, no, I'm not seeing what was bugging me. Oh, yeah. Okay. World Cup qualifying, they got killed by Qatar in Qatar really badly. But again, they've had some bad results. I mean, yeah, okay, that was bothering me. It was their match against Oman which I'm pretty sure I had the under or something like that in that match. They lost 4-0 to Oman. They got completely annihilated. And then they were not good against Palestine in a 2-2 draw at home. But they are at home here against South Korea. South Korea has kind of been overperforming a little bit. If you want to let's look at their expected metrics really quick before we move on. South Korea, they got a 2-0 win at Jordan. Excuse me. And then they beat Iraq 3-2. Both those matches, the XG battle was actually pretty close. In fact, here's a stat for you. Throughout all of these, let me count these up. Their last 8 World Cup qualifiers, they have only created over 2 expected goals once, and it was against Thailand. So, you know what? Put me down for Kuwait +2 at -129. Put me down for that. All right. And Kuwait, if you look at their team, I think they do have a little bit of talent. And they have, if you look through all their underlying metrics, it hasn't been horrible. Like, it's not good, but it's not like, horrible, which I think this is just pricing. So again, 4,500 miles to travel for South Korea. A lot of their players, obviously playing in Europe. It's a lot of travel. I mean, think about that. I don't know if they have to travel to South Korea first and then to Kuwait. I would imagine that's what they have to do because of that. That's a lot of travel. So yeah, put me down for Kuwait +2 at -130. Excuse me, -129 at Bet365. All right, the lone Friday match, Indonesia, Japan. I like Japan. Pull up the odds here, make sure my odds are still current. Oh, they've gone down a little bit. How about that? There might be some players out for Japan. We'll have to see. Not that it really matters. Japan's actually really deep in terms of their attack. Okay, I guess the odds are sitting at the same on the spread. I like Japan -2 at +120. Japan is in throttle everybody mode right now, and they're not relenting. They went through a couple tough matches recently against Saudi Arabia and against Australia, but in their previous 5 World Cup qualifying matches against, and you could put Indonesia in the category with these teams I'm about to mention. North Korea, Myanmar, Syria, China, and Bahrain. They beat those 5 teams 23-0. They only allowed a total, not per match, total of 0.73 expected goals in 5 matches. It's just because their press is relentless, and they thwart away, they just swat away long balls. Anybody tries to play direct, they pin opponents inside their own final third. It's really beautiful to watch, and if you've listened to Wonder Goal long enough, you know how big we were on Japan in the 2022 World Cup. I imagine I'm going to be big on them here when the 2026 World Cup rolls around. But so they played Indonesia in the Asian Cup, and they just completely dominated them. They pinned them inside the final third, and they were just relentless. They won the match 3-1. Indonesia got a late goal at the end in stoppage time to get on the board, but they ended up creating Indonesia 2.8 to 0.3, and they were just consistently pressing high, even when they were up 2 goals. And they were killing them in transition. They kept getting 2v1s in wide areas. They were doing beautiful, just like overlaps on the left with Matoma and just swinging crosses into the back post to Doan. And he was just making late runs over and over and over again. And it was just so beautiful to watch. Indonesia has drastically overperformed at this point, and they're really due to get throttled. Since the exit from the Asian Cup, they have a -3.1 expected goal differential and a +3 actual goal differential. So there you go. A little bit of negative aggression they're due for. And they've given up a ton of chances to good teams. They gave up over 3 expected goals to Australia, 2.1 to Bahrain, 1.9 to Saudi Arabia, and 2.3 to Iraq. So I have Japan spread projected at -2.2. To travel is not bad here for Japan. So I like them -2 at +120 at Bet365. All right. Does anybody have any questions about either Asia or South American qualifying before we move on to, we saved the best for last, some AFCON? Okay. Hang on 1 second. I apologize. There we go. All right. Okay. Everybody can still, everybody can still hear me. Okay. Okay. So we're going to move on here to AFCON, my favorite. I had 5 picks here for AFCON, but one of them moved out of range, and I'll mention it at the end. Earlier question about do teams care if they've already been eliminated, or in this case, if they have already advanced. It depends on the team, but I'll tell you this much, and this is just kind of a general thing in the international game in general. If teams are eliminated, they've already advanced, they don't play a lick of defense. Matches open up and they tend to be very fun because, like, think about it, right? If you're a player that's playing for, here, I'll do my first match here. Gabon over half a goal against Morocco. Morocco's a truck, man. I don't know. I don't want to get in front of that. I know they've already qualified. Ecuadorial Guinea and Algeria. So two teams that have already qualified. After Togo lost today, Equatorial Guinea's in. This match means absolutely nothing. Of course, teams will rotate, right? But if you're a player that's playing for one of these two teams and you're going to the match and you say, hey, it doesn't matter, aren't you just trying to score goals? Like, who is going into one of these matches and saying, you know what, let's put a great defensive performance in. Let's work hard in our low block. Let's deny space for the middle. Let's make it hard for Algeria, right? Let's get a result out of this. No. You're trying to hit them in transition over and over and over again. You're trying to hit them again. You're trying to play as aggressive as possible and try to score goals. You're trying to have some fun. You're trying to work some things out tactically. So I like the over here. Equatorial Guinea, Algeria, over 2, minus 115 at Bet365 right now. So before I get started and dive into this one, so for AFCON, there's really only 3 books in the U.S. here that will generally put out odds for AFCON. It's Bet365, DraftKings, and BetMGM. All the other books don't put out odds, at least here in Iowa. Maybe it's different everywhere else. But so over 2, minus 115, Equatorial Guinea and Algeria. Previous meeting between these two, Algeria romped them, created 3.2 expected goals. And the problem for Equatorial Guinea is they are they're typically a 4-4-2 type mid-block type of team, but they like to press out of it. They like to go man-to-man, which is fine if you're playing against like lower level teams. But when you're playing against really good teams like Algeria, who have a lot of quality in their attack, when you go 1v1 across the back line against a lot of their really good attackers like Riyad Mahrez, for example, Nabil Fekir, blanking on one more name, Said Ben Rama, those type of guys, they're going to punish you. And that's exactly what Algeria did in that previous match. And Equatorial Guinea's matches as well, because they play this 4-4-2 mid-block, because they go man-to-man, their matches tend to be a little bit more high event. Since the beginning of 2024, Equatorial Guinea matches are averaging 2.7 expected goals per 90 minutes. They showed in the AFCON Cup of Nations that they can be a dangerous transition team. I mean, they scored 4 goals against the Ivory Coast and against Guinea-Bissau. And for Algeria, they're under a new manager as well, Vladimir Petkovic. If you recognize that name, or if you Google him and you look at his face, I'm pretty sure you're going to recognize him if you've been following soccer for a while, because he was in charge of Switzerland from 2014 to 2021. And he was really successful with them. He took them to the knockout stage of every international tournament that they were in. He's a big-time adapter tactically. Like, he's already played 4 different formations with Algeria in their 4 qualifying matches. And he's very, very good at finding the best possible formation and system that suits whoever you're playing against, quite frankly. So, even though this match means nothing to Algeria, they can clinch first place with a draw, but I highly doubt they're just going to come out and play passively in this match, right? Like, this is another great opportunity to work on some things tactically. And if this match is similar to the previous one where they created over 3 expected goals, like, I think there's a really good shot this is going over 2. I mean, Algeria in these 4 AFCON qualifier matches are averaging 1.94 expected goals per 90 minutes. So, which really isn't surprising given the talent that they actually have on the squad. So I like over 2, minus 115 in Equatorial Guinea and Algeria. Now, here's a special match for you. How about South Sudan, Congo? I like South Sudan plus a half against Congo. Minus 111 at Bet365. So here's the deal. Congo beat them in the previous match in Congo, and they won the expected goals battle about 2.3 to 1.4. But these two have actually played 2 other times in the last round of AFCON qualifying. And the match that was in South Sudan was like dead even. South Sudan won it 2-1. There was like a red card, and they scored a man down. ESPN Bet has AFCON. Not sure about Iowa. I would have to look, but generally ESPN Bet's odds are not the fairest. But I'll look. I'll give them a shot. But in any case, and then South Sudan in the other match, which was in Congo, they outcreated them 1.5 to 0.79 on expected goals, and they won the match, 1-0. There has been some bad results for South Sudan, like no doubt. Like they gave up 3.5 expected goals to South Africa, again over 2 expected goals to Congo. So it hasn't been great for them, but they are at home. It is +0.5. They have been eliminated, but it's just a really, really inflated line. Like since the beginning of 2023, South Sudan's expected goal differential per 90 minutes is -0.43. Congo is -0.48. The only argument you can make here is that Congo is a more talented team, which is true. Like they have some players that are playing in Europe's top 5 leagues, but not that much to warrant a -120 for this. So South Sudan, ESPN Bet does have them. No, that's UEFA Nations League. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm just looking for this. So yeah, South Sudan +0.5, like I already mentioned. Africa. I'm not seeing anything in here in Iowa for ESPN Bet. So if they're available elsewhere, great. Okay, so let's move on. Burundi and Malawi. I like over here. Here's the thing that's happening with AFCON is, this match means nothing. Both these teams have been eliminated. So I think you're going to see a lot of very open. It's going to be very open, very end-to-end, which is how the first match was. This first match between these two ended 3-2, and there was 3.1 expected goals created in the match. So, why are we getting a total so low here at 2? Well, it's because these are typically 2 low block transitional type of teams. But what happened in that 3-2 match, there was just a ton of mistakes defensively, which can happen when you don't have a lot of talent. And generally, when you get in these type of matches, like I already mentioned, where both teams have been eliminated, there's not going to be a lick of defense being played. Both these teams are going to try to score. I mean, what incentive do they have to just sit back and try to defend? There is no incentive. So yeah, I think that you'll see not a lot of defense in this one, a lot of back and forth. Over the past 2 years, Burundi's matches are averaging 2.97 expected goals per 90 minutes. Malawi's are averaging 2.73. Why do we have a total sitting at 2? At -129, right? That's low. So over 2, -129. And unfortunately, I did like Burundi quite a bit in this match just because their underlying metrics are way better. They have the best player on the field by far in Ndiaye Shimier, who plays for Nice. He's a really, really good defensive midfielder. They use him more as a center back because they have no talent. And they need him back there. But let me just look. I'm just looking up what their money line still is, because if you want, like I said, if we're going to build around robin, I think so far Uzbekistan and Burundi are 2 teams that you can include in that. Burundi +130, they're +110 at DraftKings. I have Burundi. Let me just give you my projection for them real quick, because I do think if you want to play them on the money line, you can. I have already played. This opened as straight pick 'em, which I thought was crazy. So I already played Burundi pick 'em at -105. Where are my projections at? But clearly this has been bet down. I have Burundi at, where are they? Minus 125. Add Venezuela. That's right. That's a great shout. You know, you could do, if you wanted to reduce the risk, you could just do like Venezuela plus a half. What are they plus a half right now? If you wanted to reduce the risk, but of course, if you want to build a great round robin, getting a 5-1 in there is a big. So I agree, Hiron. Yeah, I agree with that. I apologize if I mispronounced your name, but if you, I assume if you've been listening to Wonder Go long enough, you know how great I am at mispronouncing names. Although I think I did a great job with Ndai Shimier, right? I mean, that's a tough name to. If you go look up that name, it's a very difficult one to pronounce. I think I nailed it. Yeah. So Burundi, Malawi over 2. Mozambique and Mali. I'm going to chase a little bit of a bigger price here. I project a little bit of value here on Mali. I have them at minus 144 here on the road, but I'm going to chase a bigger price of them to win nil, which is plus 175 at Bet365, because I think they're one of the best defensive teams in Africa. The midfield of Hadaira, Kamara, and Basuma, 3 pressing monsters, 3 really good ball winners, make it incredibly difficult for any team to play through. And because of those 3 in the midfield, because they make it so difficult to play through in the middle, Mali is only allowing, excuse me, I had some chili tonight. It's kind of coming back up. Hopefully I don't puke. Mali is only allowing 0.72 expected goals per 90 minutes in 2024. That's one of the best marks in Africa. Tom Saintfiet is now recently taken over. If you Google him, I think you'll recognize him if you've been following AFCON long enough. He most recently was in charge of Gambia, who was like one of my nightmare teams to try and bet against for a long time. That just overperformed. They killed me many times in AFCON of 2022, and then even through AFCON qualifiers in 2023. But they've kind of come back down to earth. But he's been around a long time. He's a really, really good defensive coach, which is kind of what Mali needs to continue to rise up the ranks here in Africa. Last 4 matches in charge, since he's been in charge, 1.83 expected goals total allowed. Their previous match against Mozambique ended in a 1-1 draw. Mozambique was only able to create 0.28 expected goals. And Mozambique really isn't that good of a team. They may be at the top of the qualifying group here, which is this match actually does matter. So, like, this is one of the few ones that actually does. So it's okay to take Mali if you want to just take them straight on the money line. Again, I'm just chasing a bigger price because of how good they are defensively. Since the beginning of 2024, Mozambique was in the African Cup of Nations, but since the beginning of 2024, so basically start of AFCON and all these AFCON qualifiers, they have a minus 3.2 expected goal differential. Defense is a big problem for them. Since beginning of 2022, so larger sample size, they are allowing 1.53 expected goals per 90 minutes, aka basically would double what Mali is allowing. And their offense is much better than Mali's. So I have Mali projected at minus 144. But I like chasing the bigger price here to win nil at plus 175, which is available at Bet365. So those are all the picks for AFCON. The other one that I was looking at, and unfortunately, and this is one that I think the price has come down too much where I cannot recommend a bet on it. But if you want to throw it in the round robin, this might be one of them. I got really excited, and I've already bet it, but Angola against Ghana. Can I talk about Ghana for a second? They have to win this match or they're going home. They're not going to go to AFCON. Isn't that crazy? Ghana has 2 points. They got beat by Sudan in one of their recent matches. And Angola beat them in the first match here of qualifying. These 2 teams have played 3 times since 2023. And outside of the first match, Ghana beat them. And if you look, they created over 2 expected goals. But if you go watch the highlights, 1.5 of those 2 expected goals came on like a pinball scenario at the end where it was just like huge chance, off a goalkeeper, huge chance, right? Otherwise, they did nothing. Previous match was a little interesting. Ghana kind of dominated it, took 20 shots, 1.8 expected goals. A little bit inefficient. But Angola is a really underrated team, man. Since the beginning of AFCON, they have a plus 5.7 expected goal differential. Like they have a pretty good attacking duo up top. hang on, I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna butcher his name so badly. So get ready to clip this one because this is gonna be bad. So Enzola, first one, Enzola, who, if you remember, he was at Spezia, then he went to Fiorentina. Now he's at Lens in Ligue 1. Luvumbo, who plays for Cagliari in Serie A as well. He's a promising young talent. So they have a couple guys here. Mielsen, who plays for Red Star Belgrade, is also a very promising left winger. David Carmo, who plays for Olympiacos, really solid center back. Like there's talent across the Angolan side. Obviously, not as much talent as Ghana, but again, Ghana's got to win this one. And I found it kind of funny because like this opened at Ghana plus 120, which is basically the same odds as they were when they went to Angola into the 2023 qualifying, and Angola like completely dominated them. So I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. Like Ghana's gotten worse and Angola's gotten a lot better. Like, why is it sitting at the same price? And then I woke up this morning and this has been bet down to like a straight pick 'em. So, and that's where I have this match. So, that's a pass for me. So yeah, that's AFCON qualifying. Does anybody have? So that's basically it. Does anybody have any overarching questions about anything? Honestly, about any of these international qualifiers? If you want a projection for any CONCACAF or UEFA Nations League matches, I'd be more than happy to give it to you and let you make your own decisions from there. Again, I'll be back for another live stream next Wednesday. I might have something fun in store for Belgium, Italy. Did you CONCACAF? I did not do CONCACAF. All right. I haven't done anything CONCACAF. I think the U.S. price is kind of low, though. I was looking at that today at Jamaica. Although Balogun, I'm pretty sure, is out, right? I haven't looked through any of these lineups for CONCACAF or UEFA, so I have no idea. Belgium, Italy, though, is the match is in Belgium, correct? Yes, I assume it is. Hang on 1 second. Yep, that's all I need here. Bet USA. Yeah. Jamaica, dude. Last 13 matches, -7 expected goal differential. United States has over their last 20, not counting friendlies, or any Nations League. They have a plus 1.08 expected goal differential per 90 minutes. US has kind of like low-key been dominant. And I don't think anybody really wants to admit it because I think it is buy low spot in US. I agree. By the way, I can't stop thinking about it. I'm just going to say this out loud. A former colleague of mine who's a young kid, his name is John Olson. You can go look up his Twitter right now. He has maybe like the most scalding take ever. After 2 matches, he said, I got to pull this up. Now, here's what I'll say. I'm not saying that my good friend John is wrong here, okay? Like we may end up in a situation where this whole Pochettino thing doesn't work out. I would love for it to work out. But I gotta. So my good friend John Olson, and I told him he needs to write a 10,000 word dissertation on this because this take is too hot that it's been like 3 weeks and I still can't stop thinking about it. He says, poach out. I would give an explanation, but the Euro snob USMNT fan base that doesn't understand the sport doesn't deserve it. When this crashes and burns in 2026, derailing the country's ascension to a football power, just remember I told you so. On another somewhat related note, I'm absolutely delighted that Greg Berhalter is now the manager of my local Chicago Fire. He should never have been removed as the USMNT post, and the decision will go down as one of the worst in United States footballing history. That's like the hottest take I've heard in a really long time. I think Jamaica is a super solid team with all the talent they got. What talent is actually playing for them? Because Leon Bailey's not playing for them. And their underlying metrics suck. So it's just, here's the deal with Jamaica. I've said it many times. They got some talent, I guess, if you want to call it that. But they consistently are so bad. Jamaica's always let down in big spots. It's true. And by the way, I'll put this out as well. Jamaica and the United States played, although it was in the United States, so you say what it is. They played in CONCACAF Nations League. I think it was the semis. US won, created like 3.2 expected goals. Jamaica did absolutely nothing. So they dominated them last time that they faced them. So buy low spot for US. Let's do it. US money line. Go USA, America, all that good stuff. All right. Sorry. Belgium and Italy. Sorry. I was just making sure that I had home field advantage punched into my projections because I still haven't updated anything since the Euros. All right, we'll punch those in really quick. 1 second here. Any other questions while I'm punching this into the old computer? What's your projection for Benin and Nigeria? Benin and Nigeria, interesting match. It is real quick. I'll do that one since I already have it up here. Benin plus 632, Nigeria minus 156, the draw at plus 294, total at 2.11, Nigeria for 1.54 goals and Benin for 0.57. Okay, hang on 1 second. Let me do Belgium and Italy first before I do Greece and England. Sorry if my computer also kind of shakes a little bit. My setup here is not the greatest right now, but it'll get better. Hey, you know what? The more people join these, the more people subscribe. Yeah, by the way, if you're in this and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the YouTube. I'd love to be able to keep doing those and eventually, hopefully, be able to do more of these. So please subscribe to the YouTube. Tell a friend. Tell the homeless man on the street to subscribe. Tell everybody, subscribe. All right, that's my end. That's my spiel. Yes, I am telling you, Damari Gray is an amazing. Yeah, he still plays in. I think he's what is he? He's playing. He's playing for like a mid-level Saudi team, right? Thoughts on the Tuchel hire? I love the Tuchel hire. Tuchel's the best knockout coach in football. Tuchel hire is amazing. England's going to win the World Cup. Oh, by the way, here, I'll mention this. I forgot. So if you want great Nations League analysis, go listen to my friend Sam Ingram, a betting expert. I know they have a podcast out going through a bunch of Nations League matches. He'll do a way better job than I can do on any of them right now. Go listen to my friend Sam Ingram, a betting expert. If you want Nations League picks, he'll have them, and he always does a really, really good job. Low key, I'll say this also. I kind of laugh because it's sad that Wonder Goal obviously ended, but Sam killed it on Wonder Goal. He did way better than me and Michael. He killed it. He won almost. He was winning like 70% of his bets. He was awesome. So yeah, go listen to Sam. Sam does a great job. All right, Belgium and Italy. Sorry, I'm like getting sidetracked here. Again, go look at who's in the lineups. This is just Belgium plus 184, Italy plus 191, draw plus 230, total 2.06. Greece and England. Now, again, this is the problem I'm saying. I'll give you this Greece-England projection. Every one of England's good players is out for this thing. Greece plus 480, Greece plus 458, England minus 126, the draw at plus 279, total 2.2. Yeah, AFCON, I wish they were too. You can broadcast them through Bet365 if you're wondering how to actually watch them. That's usually how I do it. You can do it on a laptop or whatever. That's how you do it. You're not going to get any commentary or really, the footage sometimes a little grainy. I was looking up a little struggle to find actual highlights for Burundi and Malawi last night when I was trying to go through everything. Yeah, he is no Debundo. Who knows? Maybe we'll see Debundo again sometime on one of these. Thoughts on Amorium hire? Oh, you know what? I'm going to talk. I believe Sam liked both teams to score yes. Yeah, Leboff's good. Don't worry. Leboff's all good. I don't know how. Let's see. Well, I'll tell you how Leboff is doing based on how the Islanders are doing right now. How are the Islanders doing? Are they getting? Yeah, Leboff will be okay. Don't worry. As long as the Islanders still give him hope, he'll be okay. How are the Islanders doing? This is my weekly. This is like my weekly check-in to see what Leboff's mental state is like. The Islanders are they in the wild card? They're tied for the last wild card spot, so that's okay. It gives him a little bit of hope. I'll text him. He'll tell me they're probably like 80-1 to win the Stanley Cup. He'll probably tell me that, of course, that there's value on that. I got to tell you, haven't lost. That's probably the team I've lost the most money on in futures. Just keep betting Islanders. Thoughts on Amorium? I'll save those for the next one. I think they're way more suited. Also, I have kind of a question for everybody out there. I'm thinking about starting a Substack of like kind of just doing like the writing I was doing at the Action Network, but like way more stuff and way more detailed stuff instead of like for example, like instead of like game previews, because you could just get that on my YouTube here. It would be more like in-depth data, tactical analysis. Like, an idea I had the other day was like doing a long form piece on like why Nottingham Forest is so good now and like why they've ascended up so high. Let me know in the comments if that's something you would read. I wouldn't charge people an arm and a leg for it. Probably would just be like a couple bucks a month would be my guess. Just because, I'm in a weird position right now where I truly believe that content should be free, but also like I got to make money as I'm still unemployed. So yeah, let me know if that's something people would be interested in. You would absolutely subscribe. Thank you. Yeah, again, I wouldn't charge people an arm and a leg. I'd make it cheap. And one thing I was actually thinking about doing on there, I just need some time to actually do it, is I'm going to run simulations for Europe's top 5 leagues, Champions League, and Europa League based on my projections. And I've said it before, but like the way Zerillo for MLB at Action did his futures column, just like very easily showing you like what the value is. Like it would be something like that, right? Like I would run simulations on like a Substack and be like, this is an idea that I had before I left Action Network, was having the simulations right there, like in a table showing you typically like kind of similar to my Edge screen that I have right now. Now, before I say anything about this Substack thing, all the picks and projections will always be free. Okay. So don't freak out. This would just be more like futures, overarching tactical stuff. Yeah, I could do some props on there. I could cover more on a Substack. Yeah, that's true. But showing like, okay, table of here's my projections to win the league, top 10, top 4, top 6, all that relegation, all that jazz, and just easily showing you just like the Edge screen, here's where the value is, and then doing a long form write-up on a future that I would play and just keeping that as kind of like a running like weekly thing. And I'd go through all of Europe's top 5 leagues, Champions League, Europa League, and that aspect of things. So, I mean, listen, if I'm going to do this whole thing on my own, I'm going to need a lot of support. So hopefully I can find something like in the meantime to hopefully make a little bit of money. And I would love to be able to do things on my own. I think that would be, I have all these ideas, and I would love to be able to just like creatively like do them and not have to worry about getting put in a little bit of a box. So Moneyline round robin. That's true. I said we were going to do one. All right. So here it is. Get your pencils. Get your paper. This is what we're going to do. We're going to lead things off with, let me pull it up. I'm just going to do this on Bet365, right? Like you can search, find the best odds, all that jazz, right? So Venezuela 5-1 against Brazil. Colombia plus 250 against Uruguay. Uzbekistan plus 162 against Qatar. Burundi plus 130 against Malawi. And, let's just go for it. Mali to win 0 plus 175 against Mozambique. That is that five leg parlay. Obviously, we're going to round robin it. That's 350 to 1. Or 347 to 348 to 1. Excuse me. So we're going to round robin that by twos. Or excuse me, by 2, 3s, 4s, and 5s. Yeah, we'll just do. Whew. That's a nice return. So there you go. That's the round robin. Don't say I've never done anything for you. Yeah, I'll be back. Again, let me know in the comments if this time works for people. I know I got a lot. It looks like I got a little few. Maybe it was just because it was the first YouTube. I think I peaked at 30 people in my first one. This one looks like it only got up to about 20. So let me know in the comments if this time works, if you want me to go back to more of a morning time, like a lunchtime or whatever it is. Prefer mornings. Yeah, that's what I'm wrestling between the two right now. I heard in the comments after the last one, like, oh, I'd rather have it in the evening. And I've heard from the other ones, like, oh, I'd rather have it in the morning. So yeah, just let me know. I'm going to stick with this time. If we don't get a lot of people, I may just go back to mornings and try it again. But I think you just, typically with content, you just need to kind of stick to something and eventually it'll catch on. So again, before I go, please subscribe. Please subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. Tell a friend to subscribe. Please help me out so I can do a lot more of these. Projections in the description below is my Google sheet that has all my projections, all my picks. I even throw some college football picks in there for the 10 people that maybe want them. They're all in there. Minor thing. Yeah, here's the problem, man. I'm not the most tech savvy person. It's a lot for me to even just get YouTube live going. I would need to somehow figure out how to do all that. Like I don't have a producer doing this. It's all me. So that's the problem I'm going into. If you haven't noticed, I got a new logo. Shout out to a former colleague of mine, Cyril, who did all of that. Yeah. Okay. So I'll open this up for any last questions. Otherwise, hire Hutton. I wish I had the money to hire Hutton because Hutton's the best. Yeah, again, here's the thing. If you get people to subscribe and we get more people in here and I can make some money, of course I can hire Hutton and then everything can be good, right? And I can make all these cool videos, which I may do. I think I'm going to start. One other idea that I had is I think I'm going to start instead of just doing live streams is actually doing long form videos. My thought my thing is just doing a video on how Nottingham Forest is good. The problem is I don't know how to edit videos and I have to pay somebody to do that. So let's hope we can win some of these bets so I can pay a video editor some bucks to edit a video for me. So yeah, that's what you can look out for on the horizon. Again, I know there's only 11 people in here, but any future employers out there, I am available. I would like a job, but I would also like to be able to do some stuff of my own here, which would be nice. So, yeah, thank you for everybody for joining. I'll see you again. We're just going to shoot for next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Central Time. And I got a special, you know what? Before I go, I'll have a surprise for you guys on Wednesday. So thanks everybody for joining. I'll see you next time.